Welcome to the Green Wisdom Health Podcast with Dr. Stephen and Janet Lewis, where you will learn about natural solutions to common ailments. And now, here are your hosts, Dr. Stephen and Janet Lewis.
Hello and welcome to this week's show. I'm Janet Lewis.
And I'm Dr. Lewis.
And we are very blessed to have you listening to our show and appreciate you very much. And want to inform you with some new information this week about the flu, because so much of it is beginning to go around. Everybody's got the big flu scare, getting the big flu shot. So we're going to help ramp up your immune system and educate you a little bit about why you might want to do some proactive things and the proactive things that you can do to help you stay away from the dreaded flu. So, Dr. Lewis, would you mind inspiring us and educating us with your knowledge so that we won't be scared?
God, she makes me speechless not very often, but today's the day. Well, I think that's one thing that people should realize is there's a lot of fear tactics going on, and fear in and of itself is stress-filled and will lower your immune system. So, I always think the easiest way to be healthy is have a positive, happy, healthy attitude and talk about what's around them and what blesses them. But, we'll get into the nutrition part of it. And as usual, I always write about 3-4 times as much as we have time to get into the podcast. So forgive me if we kind of repeat ourselves or just feel like you've been hurried through it. There's a lot of things about immune system, and I don't want to get too technical, but, there's some things that we probably need to know, and it's very important to get lab. I think it's very, very important. And the thing about you have to understand is the lab gives not only this amount of monocytes, this amount of lymphocytes, this amount of neutrophils and eosinophils, but it also gives us a ratio. And that's something that it's very wise, I think, to pay attention to.
When you talk about getting lab, for the new listeners out there that aren't aware of what we do, are you talking about the comprehensive panel that you like generally?
Yeah, the comprehensive tells us a whole lot. I mean, we do a lot there compared to what you would normally get somewhere else.
Okay, so whenever you're running lab, you're looking for things, you're talking about flu, immune system is something that's on there, right? It's something you can see that.
Well, you can. Yeah, I mean, you can tell the amount of white blood cells, and I tell people, well, it's not about your parameters or reference range off to the right, because that covers America, and it's what is common in America, but what is not normal. But most of us think, well, it's common, therefore it's normal, and I don't think that's true at all. But I've always had convoluted thinking and try to think, further down, and it's like, okay, well, that covers up the symptom, but what's causing it? I've always been that way.
And one of the things, it's been our perspective from seeing people's lab work that most people are running on empty to start with. And then the flu comes along or something bad like bronchitis or, the yearly thing that creeps up on you and gets you. I hear that so often. It's like, once or twice a year, this just comes and hits me.
Well, and again, you're speaking that into existence and you're believing it and you're expecting it. And that alone helps create it. But, we'll get back to the meat and potatoes of the matter.
But isn't it true that most people are running on empty when we see it on lab?
Very much so, and there's a difference between being alive and existing versus really living, a life toward 100%. There's a bbig, big difference there.
Well, when we're looking at the lab, not only are we looking at immune system, we run 12 different panels of lab, and you can have high or low cortisol that's making you extremely fatigued and tired, and then wham, the sickness comes along and gets you. You can be anemic. Which we found that a lot lately on lab, that people don't even realize they are because that panel's not run on a regular lab. It's called ferritin. They don't check it.
So you can't carry enough oxygen to keep you full of energy and you're chronically fatigued.
Right. So there's many things, your thyroid not being optimal. And if you're thinking, oh, hey, I can't get this lab run. Yes, you can. We do it all across the United States. And basically you'll go into any Quest location that's across the United States through our account and have it drawn. And Dr. Lewis gets the results and we go over everything with you over the phone. So you don't have to suffer if you're in another state and you're out in the middle of,
Podunk?
we have a lot of podunk people that have to drive hours.
No, people that live in Podunk.
Yes. I mean, there's one driving 80 miles tomorrow because he's
That's
so far away from
Minnesota, I think.
From a LabCorp or a Quest draw station. So they're, you just go there and get it done, and then you're not guessing anymore, and you don't feel bad. And then you're ready for whenever this big bug season hits, which it's already kind of in the middle of it now. And you're prepared to know what's going on, and your immune system gets better, and we can help give you the right nutrients to do that.
Well, and that's another reason it's more prevalent, because the sun's angle has changed. And even though we're all low on vitamin D, we get even lower. And I said on a previous podcast that there's major research that says if you take 1,000 IUs of good vitamin D, notice I preface that with good vitamin D, there's a lot of junk out there. 1,000 IUs a day will decrease your incidence of colds and flu by 70%, and 2,000 put people almost to where nobody got colds and flu. And I think America gets about 1 billion colds per year. I read that somewhere, but
and it's very interesting with vitamin D because a lot of people will hear this podcast and they'll run out and start taking a bunch of it.
Yeah, well, I did the statistics on it because I got tired of hearing people, well, I'm taking 5,000 units. It's like, well, your lab says it's not working. They said, but I'm taking it. I said, it ain't working. And there's not a lot of, well, there's difference in quality. You know, you hear me say that all the time. And people, they say all kinds of crazy things. It's like, well, I've seen relationships that were terrible, harmful, toxic, and then I've seen relationships that were absolutely incredible. And they were both women, so aren't all women alike? No, and neither are supplements.
That's why we only carry the top of the line supplements in our store. They are pharmaceutical grade.
More absorbable.
Yes, they will move the lab values.
But, I won't get too far into the technical stuff, but you got something called granulocytes, and that's a type of white blood cell, which includes neutrophils, eosinophils, and basophils. Neutrophils, the most abundant, the largest percentage of your white blood cells. They're primarily for attacking bacteria, but it can be other things. But the eosinophils and basophils, that's something I always look at. Eosinophils should be like a 0, 1, or 2. And when they go up, if you get to a 3, I just automatically think you've got a belly full of yeast, because eosinophils, like when your body creates antigens to a food, and it may be just from food allergy, but that leads you to a condition that's perfect to grow yeast, fungus, and viruses. And the eosinophils secrete an enzyme that breaks down histamine. We have a lot of foods that create too much histamine. So if that goes high, 4 or higher, it's like, oh my God. And the basophil should be 0, maybe a 1, but they secrete compounds that, like heparin or histamine, that is in response. So then you got lymphocytes. They're responsible for development of different immunities, which is T cells, B cells, and NK cells, which is natural killer cells. They mature in the thymus gland and da-da-da-da-da. I don't want to get too deep into it. But then let's go to the monocytes. The monocytes are the biggest type of white blood cell, and they're really the garbage collectors. They go and collect garbage. So if your monocytes are, say, above a 7 and below is kind of optimal. If it goes higher than that, I know you've got a lot of garbage, so to speak, that your body's producing monocytes to go out and gobble up. And I don't know, it's pretty complicated, but I'd rather get into what you can do about it. There's so many different supplements that help your body heal itself. And we all know about garlic, and I want to make kind of a special talk about garlic. It'll be short. So everybody hears about garlic. Take garlic. And some I think are much, much better than others. And I used to buy huge amounts of garlic, try to get the organic stuff, and I'll put a whole spoonful in my food. And I thought I was doing my immune system something good until I really got down to the chemistry of it. There's only two kinds of garlic that works. One, fresh crushed, not the stuff that's already prepared that I've been using for years. It has to be fresh crushed. Allinase converts to alanine, which converts to allicin. Okay, you don't need to know. It just either crush it yourself or you have to get an enteric coated, because if it's not enteric coated, it really doesn't work. It just flavors you up and makes you smell garlicky, and the vampires don't bite you. So, and it's not that it doesn't do other good things, because it does, but if you want it to be antimicrobial, and it helps with heart health too, either crush it fresh or get the enteric coated garlic.
Yeah, we have that garlic. It's called a garlic 5000, and it works great. I've been taking it. Dr. Lewis didn't know I did. But
well, her breath doesn't smell bad,
right.
But so that's a good thing.
That's what I was going to say, that you don't burp it and belch it or anything, and you can definitely tell you're doing it because it actually helps you stay away from the bad food choices.
Yeah, I just talked to a guy about his immune system. He's up in Kansas, really, really sweet man, and his wife is just equally, I'm fond of both of them. And they have been consistent, and his lab looks so much better, and he likes beer. And I said, well, you're feeding the yeast, but this is better, and this is better, and this is better, so it's not killing you. Don't feel guilty about it. Drink a little bit of beer, you're okay. And he was like, really, I can do that? And I said, you're not hurting yourself at all, because everything got better on his lab. But it's because he was what? Consistent. And, man, I'd jump inside out to help that couple. They're incredible, and they send me a lot of people from Kansas, too. So your diet can help your immune system greatly, and you've got to find out what would cause these histamine reactions, what you have potential allergies to or create antigens against. And one of the main things that does that is grain. Okay, gone from preaching to getting personal, right?
Grain always enters every conversation we seem to have.
Well, it's really bad, and there's plenty of books written about it. There's plenty of research. And legumes, believe it or not, they really have pretty high levels, and they're pretty toxic with something called lectins. And there are books written about it and plenty of research that kind of protects them from being the food from predators like grasshoppers or whatever. And when these lectins come through, they attach to the small intestine, the little villi there, and it damages gut lining, and then creates leaky gut or intestinal permeability. And there's a massive amount of things we can do with that. I've got people that's even got Crohn's and celiac. They says, oh my God, I'm so much better. I'm so much better. Even people, when we're eating a Thanksgiving dinner or Christmas dinner, they've noticed that I'm doing better than I've done in 20 years. Yeah, well, you're taking stuff. You're actively doing something about it, because even the Bible says faith without works is dead. I don't care how much faith you got unless you put something in action. But I guess if you have faith, you will do the action. But that can help. These things that are toxic and create antigens or you're allergic to result in high levels of inflammation and can lead to all sorts of autoimmune conditions. I'm seeing more people with Hashimoto's, lupus, Sjogren's, even type 1 diabetes is thought to be an autoimmune condition. And all of this can be, if you get off the grains, it can be from partially digested food particles that make their way into the bloodstream because you've got the leaky gut. And, the thing about it is, I rarely see anybody that on lab really doesn't need a good digestive enzyme. Depending on what your protein is and your globulin and your alkaline phosphatase and all that stuff. Digestive enzymes work real well, but it's better if you can identify these food sensitivities. But it's really kind of easy if you just avoid any kind of white food unless it's garlic or onions or cauliflower. Those ones are fine, but potatoes and bread and broccoli, or not broccoli. Oh man, a Freudian slip. Those things that come out and agitate you, it's like, dadgummit, why did I say broccoli?
There'd probably a lot of people be happy to not eat broccoli. They're probably, heck yes, we finally heard something bad about broccoli.
Well, yeah, the first President George Bush didn't like it, and he lost the election, so that should tell you something. So beware of lectins, and if you want to find out if you're sensitive to it, eat a lot of grain products and a lot of legumes, and see if you don't feel pretty bad the next day, if not gaseous, but certainly bad or a sensitive stomach. Some of the other things that autoimmune disorders that your body's smart enough to help fix it, but you've got to have the nutrition in there to do it. The ones that I didn't name, like MS, IBS, fibromyalgia. Just talked to a guy about his wife a while ago. Colitis. Then it can go on to even Graves' disease, which I don't see much of that. I see more Hashimoto's. But lectins have been likened to a low-grade pesticide, but, well, maybe it is a pesticide because you got glyphosate or Roundup in there. So it just goes on and on. Some of the nutrients that are pretty important to getting your immune system jacked up where it can actually work. Vitamin E, B6, B12, vitamin E, chromium, copper, iodine, iron, manganese, vitamin A, and vitamin C. I'll just go ahead and start talking about, we got a product last year that has kicked butt and taken names. People come in and say, well, I feel like I'm getting the flu. I say, well, take five of these capsules and then, go on to the 2 per. There's different times you should take it depending on whether you're trying to maintain your immune system or whether you're trying to actively support it. And the product's called Viracid. And it has things in it like the A, C, B12, pantothenic acid, zinc, and then it has some adaptogenic herbs like astragalus, elderberry, andrographis, echinacea, lysine, which is incredibly important, and very few people know anything about lysine unless it's for fever blisters. It goes way, way beyond that. So I'd kind of like to talk a little bit about each, about most of those things anyway. Do we have time?
Yes, but we have a couple of questions that we need to have answered as well. But yes, go ahead and talk about Viracid. That's fine. I wanted to say this stuff last year when we first got it, our rep told us how to do it. It's because when you first think you're coming down with it, you take like 3 or 4 of them at once,
or up to 5.
Yeah,
loading dose. And
I thought, I wonder if this works. And I saw numerous people that came in our office and were exposed to the flu, and they started this, and it went away.
So if you're taking it, though, before you get there, you don't have to be afraid when somebody coughs, because we're going to help you learn to boost your immune system. God did give you an immune system. You don't catch it just because somebody sneezes in your face, just like you don't catch fish just because you got your pole and hook in the water.
Well, and we had a lady, she still is here. She works in a nursing home, and she ran down here and said, you have got to give me something now. She said, all these elderly people are sick and they've coughed on me all day. She said, I know I'm getting something. And we gave her this Viracid, and she said, oh my gosh, this stuff is wonderful. But if you think you've been exposed to it, you just take a couple as preventative. But if you feel like you're coming down with it, it's up to 5 at a time. And I had the flu about 3 years ago, I guess, and it's something I never want again. I don't know why it seems to attack you after about 15 or 20 years again, but every now and then it comes across. And
the stress of living with me kind of boo-booed her immune system.
Well, and this Viracid is something I keep on hand all of the time, because
it's in our house, it's in our office, It's in our RV, folks. It's that important.
Yeah, because last year when I felt like I was not feeling well, I took a couple of them and it went away. And then the young lady that we have working here got a flu shot, and we're not going to say anything either way about that. But she goes, so since I had the flu shot, should I start on this Viracid now? And I thought, okay. I don't even have a response for that, but it's more for preventative.
Well, and we're not pro or anti-vax. We tell people get the information. There's a massive amount of information out there. I just wonder why you voluntarily put aluminum, mercury, and aborted fetal cells in your body that's in some of these vaccinations. If they'd clean them up, they'd probably work better. But, you make your own choice there. So let me talk about some of the things that's in this Viracid. Vitamin A, and there's a lot of misconception about vitamin A, how it's toxic, and it's like there's a lot of people that throw fear out there, but the people that throw fear are usually trying to sell you $1 billion worth of drugs, so pay attention there. Vitamin A can prevent night blindness, eye problems, help with some skin disorders and acne, helps heal gastrointestinal ulcers, deficiencies, usually dry hair, skin, dryness of the eyes. Night blindness can be insomnia, fatigue, reproductive difficulties. We get a lot of people like that. Sinus problems, pneumonia, frequent colds, and other respiratory infections.
That sounds like the lady that came to see us yesterday named Tracy that
sweet lady
has had bronchitis numerous times in the last couple of years.
And pneumonia.
She said, I'm so fatigued. I don't know what's wrong.
She's working too much. She's stressed.
Just opened a new business.
And she works full-time somewhere else.
Yeah.
And just got through building a house. And, a lot of good things can create stress and lower your immune system.
And she just goes, I just don't know what's wrong. So people sent me here. So here I am. We ran her lab. She was smart and got her lab. And her immune system's just completely cratered. And we're able to start building that back. But without the lab, we would have never known many of the things that we found on that as to why she's been declining over time. It hasn't just all of a sudden popped up. It's been over time.
And in 3 to 6 months, she'll be a brand new woman, and her husband will bring me gifts.
And I told her, I said, you probably don't even know what it feels like to feel good anymore, do you? And she said, no, I don't. And that's the ones that know there's an immune system problem with that. If that's you out there that has that same thing, if you don't know when you felt good the last time, do the lab.
And she was willing, and it's really smart because we've seen a lot of people that died younger than her, and she's still a young woman, but it's like you've got to be active or proactive. And let's get back to the vitamin C. It works synergistically with E and beta-carotene or vitamin A, and one helps the other work even better to attack the free radicals that's overloading your body and causing you to have a lowered immune system anyway. And it combines with toxic substances like heavy metals, and they render them harmless so they can be eliminated from the body. Zinc is a big one. And I'm a real proponent of zinc because it's important for the prostate gland for creating testosterone. Oh, never mind. We were talking about immune system. It's a constituent of insulin. That's kind of a big deal because too much sugar, of course, feeding the yeast, that can create a lot of problems. And consuming sugar drops your body's ability to make these white blood cells and lowers your immune system for many hours. So sugar's not a good thing. And the zinc can help with that because it makes your taste buds change and makes these sweet things not taste as appealing. So that's very, very important. If you don't have much zinc, besides having a swollen prostate, ladies, you're exempt. But you can lose the sense of taste and smell. Your fingernails can become thin, brittle, have white spots, can cause acne, fatigue, hair loss, high cholesterol levels. Yes, your high cholesterol could be as simple as a zinc deficiency. So I want to talk about lysine because that's something that people don't know diddle about unless it's like, well, I have a fever blister, so I take lysine. It's an essential amino acid. And it's a building block for all protein. But lysine in and of itself helps calcium absorption. And there's a lot of kids that, they'll get sick and they'll have a big fever and we're scared to death because, our heart goes out to kids. Usually they have a lack of calcium, but you need to throw in the lysine and the zinc with it.
Lysine's wonderful.
Yeah.
Can we also mention one other? And I know it's not a part of
It's your show, honey.
Well, I know it's not a part of the Viracid. Lauracetin.
Oh, yeah.
But that's another big one, and people are like, I've never heard of that. It's from coconut. It's what was in Mama's chicken soup. That
Lauric acid.
That's what made it so wonderful and made you feel better, because it was the lauric acid in it.
But those were good chickens. They weren't raised in these factory farms, and I've been in them. I've seen that. So good chickens.
But for immune system in this time of year, lauracetin is another thing you should keep in your counter, because it is huge. It doesn't kill the probiotics. You can actually take that and it not kill off the good bacteria.
Yeah, it just kills the pathogenic microorganisms.
Awesome for bronchitis.
That's a good point. That's in the RV too. And if I get a little snippy, snorty, snotty, she gives me doses of it. There's adaptogenic herbs like astragalus, which it protects the immune system. It helps your adrenal gland dysfunction, because usually when you get sick, it's because your adrenals are jacked up too high with cortisol or too low. Janet mentioned that a while ago. Helps colds, flu, and immune deficiency, and those related problems, and even helps people that have AIDS, cancer, and tumors. Of course, we've all heard about elderberry, and that's really a good thing. It helps fight the inflammation in bacterial and viral infections. Then you got, echinacea does similar things. So elderberry and echinacea, both of them will help relieve cough, clean the blood, the immune system in general. But that's a pretty complicated thing.
Yeah, one of the questions we had, I'm going to catch Dr. Lewis off guard here.
I love it. Go ahead.
A lady asked why we don't carry straight elderberry. Why do you have it in just Viracid? Why is having it in something better than doing it straight? Because you see it on the store shelves as just straight elderberry.
And it's not that that's not effective, and I had no clue why she's asking this, but it's like, years ago, before the hogs moved into East Texas, I used to love to squirrel hunt. And, I was really a good shot with a 22, but it's easier to miss the squirrel with a 22 than it is with a shotgun. So when you put these things together, and we use the word synergistic, one helps this and makes it more powerful and have greater potential. So hitting the immune system with all these different adaptogenic herbs, vitamins, minerals, and the lysine is more like shooting a shotgun at a squirrel. You're much more likely to hit it.
And for our people in California that are listening, it's better to plant more grapevines than just one, so that you might have a better outcome for harvest of wine.
Well, I'm speechless. Yeah, her analogies I just don't get.
Not everyone hunts. So
yeah, not everyone gets the 22 versus the shotgun deal, but right. It's better, I think, to take more than one thing. Some people say, well, I just take vitamin C. And it's like, we have the liposomal C, which is 92 to 94% absorption versus the 12 or 13% of the other. And vitamin C is wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. But why not do 2, 3, 4, 10 things? Because your immune system's going to be stimulated in different ways, and you can learn your body will detox in different ways. So, yeah.
And again, people, all of this is coming out of your gut. So if you're having a lot of issues and catching things, a lot of it has got to do with digestion.
Well,
slow trains coming through the tunnels. That's bronchitis.
Well, it's because you digest and eliminate. And if you're not eliminating the toxins, they back up and they're reabsorbed, which can cause all kinds of things. And your hormones, actually, there's a massive amount of hormone conversion that goes on in your intestines and in your liver. So, just because you don't necessarily understand it, you just have the faith, you throw it in, ask God to bless it, and you can have a healthier and happier life. And it doesn't matter if somebody coughs in your face, because they're going to. You can be immune to that because your immune system is working stronger. God gave you an immune system. It's just we're not giving your body something to fight with.
And like a lady told me the other day, she completely got that it's coming out of the gut, because she said she's always heard that the way to a man's heart is through his stomach.
That ain't true.
So why would it be any different with health? It's through your stomach.
I think she was divorced.
And with that, we hope...
Sorry, honey. Yeah, I'm in trouble for that one.
We hope you have learned something, and it has been worthwhile learning. I'm sure you've learned something, but
yeah, I had a squirrel hunt.
we do have many answers here on many different subjects, but the big one is your immune system. Don't get the flu. You don't have to have it. And hope you have a wonderful, blessed week, and we'll be here next time to educate you some more. You guys have a blessed week.
Once again, our show has come to an end, but your hope in your health is only beginning. If you or a loved one are in need of a different outcome and are waiting for a brighter future, take the first step and go to our website and fill out the health survey. Please don't keep us a secret. If you know someone that could benefit from this podcast, please share this show with your friends and family. You are only one step away from a life worth living.